Discovering a sense of boundaries, week 6 of Walking in This World, Julia Cameron's sequel to The Artist's Way. I am Shallalla. I'm a creativity coach who specializes in working with singers. And if you would like to experience what it is like to work with a creativity coach, I offer free instant inspiration calls right now. And there's a link to my calendar in the description box. You can just click on that and jump on a call with me. Walking in this world, this week's topic ties in really nicely with last week's, and I'm here with my Artist's Way buddy and writer and presenter, Joe Holmes. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm really good. I'm always good when I'm here with you and talk about all these creative things and stuff. So, how are you with boundaries?
um, Work in progress. Sometimes I don't have enough boundaries. Sometimes I have too many boundaries, but I think that's the same for all of us. I'm not going to start picking myself apart first thing in the morning. It's just got 8:30 here. So let's not wreck my boundary ability. But I know last week we were speaking about that I was struggling to negotiate my time and put boundaries around that. But since we spoke, I've been doing a lot better than that. And I did try the experiment. My sister did try managing my time and it did work. I mean, it was funny because when I was doing an artist day, when it was time for me to go on and do something else, I got voice messages, I got texts, and then she dialed into one of the speakers upstairs and shouted at me through the speaker. But it was really effective because it worked. And you don't often have someone checking up on you, but it really did help to manage my time and set my boundaries because it's my sister, so I trust her.
Mhm.
And I know that I can trust her opinion. And I feel like when it comes to the projects I'm working on, it's sometimes easier not to explain to family. So if my mum asks, okay, so what have you got on later? Sometimes I just quickly summarize. But if I let, say, my mum or my sister or my dad in, they'll give their opinion on, whether I should do that or not.
Mhm.
And sometimes, I've shut that out before because they've been my projects and I don't want that opinion on there. But when it comes to things I'm working on, it's actually quite valuable to get sometimes an opinion that's detached from it. So they can say, okay, well, I wouldn't say yes to that.
Mhm.
And it makes you think, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said yes to that. So that's been really helpful. And it's meant that I've negotiated with more strength.
Nice. I like to hear that. That's beautiful. And you said you had an artist date. What
Yes.
was your
So,
artist date?
well, I wanted to do something. I had in my mind, um, I played Tomb Raider on Xbox and I did that, say, in 2020.
Mhm.
And last year, like the middle of last year, the Xbox crashed and lost all the progress of everything. And so I stopped playing my games, but my sister had been playing it for a while, like playing different games for a while. But I really wanted to play the game again. And I wanted to see if there was a third one that I could get. And because I just fancied playing it, because I remember I used to find it fun. And when I used to play games like that, my phone would be turned off and I would be concentrating on something, that's just for enjoyment rather than, because when you're watching TV, it's so easy to get your phone out or be reading something at the same time. But when you're playing a game, you've constantly got to be paying attention. And that's really useful for me to relax. But I put the disc in of the second game, which I was halfway through playing before, and my progress wasn't lost. It saved it somehow, online or however it did it. And so on Sunday for my artist day, I continued playing that and sat for about an hour playing that.
Nice, nice. What did it do for your Julia Cameron? They always ask, like in the check-in, like, what did your artist do for your optimism, for your happiness, and so on. And I find that a little bit limiting. It's like, so okay, so I'm supposed to feel this or that, but so now I feel like, okay, how did it make you feel? Is kind of like a blah question, but I think it's kind of like the best in this situation.
Yeah, it's hard not to exaggerate the effect it's had just because I'm focusing on it. But it was good because it showed me that okay, I thought the progress was lost, but I hadn't actually put the game in, mostly because I knew if I did try playing the game again, it would take my time up. And I was, I didn't want my time to be taken up with fun things, of course. But, I let that happen, and I remember that being a positive thing. And it's also that now I've played it once, that I know when I do get a chance, I will play it again because I want to continue where I left off because I can remember, the story of it.
Mhm.
So I'm optimistic because I know that in a couple of days or whenever I get a chance, I'll go back and play a game. And that means that my attention will be drawn away from other things.
Mhm.
How
Mhm.
about you? How about your boundaries and artist dates?
Yeah, okay. Boundaries is it's a huge topic right now, and it's so weird because um, loneliness and solitude was such a huge topic for me the last 2 years, and now I'm now it's kind of like, how shall I put it? Um, I discovered that my boundaries were completely gone because I had so limited contact with other people that it wasn't really not necessary to have boundaries. It was like, no, it's okay. You can call me whenever you want, and I can answer whenever I want, because like there was this huge stretch of time throughout the day that I could do whatever I wanted, and it really like I valued human contact over staying focused on the thing that I was doing. And
Yeah,
now things have completely changed because I'm in this full-time certification program to become a business coach, and that is hugely demanding. And and my life kind of like filled up. Like there are people in my life now, which is like really weird. And so I noticed I can't do that anymore. I can't, like Julia Cameron, she says no contact on demand. And that is exactly what I experience. I can't do contact on demand anymore. And it's really weird. And I'm kind of scared to communicate that to the people who are used to me being their contact on demand. And it's like, I can't do that anymore. And it doesn't mean that I don't love you anymore. It just means that my life has changed and that I really have to take care of myself and my boundaries. So
yeah.
it's super interesting. It's very exciting. I'm coaching myself through every step. And yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's demanding and fun and interesting.
Yeah, I think that's an important note that you obviously open up your boundaries to let people in, but once you let people in, you need to find room for new boundaries to communicate and manage your time effectively. And what that means is that because you've got less time now, you can't be on demand, but it's hard to approach that with people. It's quite difficult to say, okay, well, no, not anymore.
Mm.
But I feel like we always put ourselves in a trap where we make it seem a lot harder than it actually is. When we are tough, like you were telling me to be last week, it's actually that difficult to communicate that with to people in a way that's people understand and are friendly. So for example, organizing this call this week, I knew that you were studying for the certification. I knew that you were spending large chunks studying. So I knew that your availability had dropped to where it used to be.
Yeah.
And what you did, which was set boundaries, you gave me two times, I think today and tomorrow, or today and another day, in first thing in the morning. And you said, okay, these are the only two times I can do. And is it you added that on at the end because it was almost like you're thinking you're going to be able to do a big list of times, and you thought, okay, no, it's only two. And you know, I'm fine with that because if I couldn't do those two, I mean, we wouldn't do that too. But
Yeah.
you know, you set that boundary, and people are actually quite flexible.
It was funny because I asked you, okay, do we go back to weekly, or are we staying with every second week? And then you said, oh, let's go back to weekly. And then I checked my calendar. I was like, ah. And that was, I should have done that before, but I mean, it worked out. We're here now, and you have my admiration for being like that at 8:30 your time. That's really great. Um, my artist dates, I mean, I'm having so much fun with these. I'm still doing more than the required one. So and you know already, I'm huge with books. So I think a book can be more than one artist date. And I found this book. It's 50 Machines That Changed Our World.
Huh.
And it's like it's instant inspiration. Like it is so much fun. Um and I think we talked about people who create things, or explorers. They do not suffer from depression. It's so interesting. It's the job group that, like, with a almost zero depression rate, which is so interesting. And it's because they are always curious, using their creativity, finding solutions, and they're always trying to discover, and like it feels like the world is a mystery to them. And so I think when it's a mystery, it doesn't depress you, it just excites you. And so reading about these people, um, who against all odds uh, came up with these incredible solutions for problems that people deemed insolvable, is just really inspiring and really fun. Like, and also learning a lot. Like, do you know the story of the Turbinia? It was a steam ship,
I
and
don't think I do. No.
it was in 18 something. Uh, Somebody, I forgot his name. He invented the fastest steam driven ship ever, and people didn't want it. And so what he did was, actually, there was a huge marine parade for the Queen. So it was in the UK,
Yeah.
and he just kind of like a pirate, he entered that, or sabotaged that parade. And so it was kind of like embarrassing, because this ship was so fast that even they sent the fastest military ships after it. And he was just like, nah, 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 nah. And so it was like, and it was a huge marketing gag.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, the book said, remember, this was before terrorism, so you don't do that now, because
Yeah.
your ship would be like destroyed immediately. But I think that is so ballsy. It's like, I have something that is better than anything that you have, and I'm gonna show it the world, and so I'm just gonna hijack the Queen's parade.
Yeah. And
I
it
love
says a
that
lot
stuff.
about trying to prove your worth and to be recognized as a creator.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's not always the best approach to take, but sometimes if you show yourself openly, others will notice you. Of course, they will notice you. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that you go and hijack a parade, but you know, as long as it's okay to put yourself out in the open, because if you're doing something positive, then people will see the good in that.
Mm.
And I feel like if we put that to, say, social media and online, now people feel like it's very much you're putting yourself into the open waters. It's quite difficult. Should I do this? But
Yeah.
you're different to everyone else. You might be the steamship, but there's lots of other ships in the water, and
Mm.
they're going to be looking at you, but they're also going to be looking at themselves and comparing themselves.
I don't think like you can't use this. I mean, I'm working on a Turbinia strategy because I think it's genius. I don't think you can use it like the exact same way. You can't really replicate it. But of course, he got offers, and he was booked for years in demand to build those ships after displaying it like that. So even the Queen was impressed. So okay, so highly recommended. Like these 50 something, I think they are really, really awesome artist dates. And then another artist date that I had was, I am a huge fan of Charlene Harris. She's an American mystery writer. She did the Sookie Stackhouse / True Blood series, and she there are other series I haven't read so far, and so I got four parts of one series, like used for €8, all four of them, and I started reading on Saturday, and I didn't stop, and I slept, and then in the morning Sunday I was just like, I'm gonna finish this book, and it's gonna be my artist date, and I love her writing so much. It's yeah, that was really great, and that was really inspiring as well. And I fear that I now have to redo the novel I'm working on in first person narration. Yes, thank you. That was
I understand. I mean, I know I was working on a novel in first person narration and realized I had to redo it in third person narration. And that was something I thought, well, do I just continue or do I not? But I was at an earlier stage that I imagine you're at now and having to think that. But hear me out. It's not
yeah.
such a bad thing because we're going to want to make changes anyway. And the
Mm.
fact that you feel that means that you're not done with it. And having it up in one Word document and rewriting it again in a different perspective is only going to make sure that you get the story even stronger because you're refining it as you do it. But I'm not going to say that it's easy or, you know, the most the most hopeful decision to make, but it means that it's inspired you and actually out of the artist date that you weren't expecting to be anything to do with writing your novel.
Mm.
It's given you ideas about how you could present that story differently.
I mean, this is not so much working in this world. This is more writer's shop. I mean, I think it's totally fine. I just there's a German fantasy writer. His name is Christoph Marzi, and he has this fantastic way where I was just like, is he really doing this? That's fantastic. Where it's actually first person narration, but he adds third person in there. So actually, he talks about scenes where he's not there. And
Right.
it is so fascinating. And it's like, hang on. And it took me a while. I was like, something is odd. What's going on here? And then I realized this. And what it does to me is I sort of get the impression that this character is much more powerful than I thought because it knows the character, they know what,
Yeah.
even if they're not there, they know. And it's so strong. And to be honest, I love first person narration. I mean, I love the Dresden Files. I love Charlene Harris. All her heroines are in first person narration. And it's like out of the I mean, we talked about my project, so I have 4 books so far, and one of them I wrote in first person narration, and it was the one that was easiest to write. It's the most fun to read back now. It's where I know this is the one that needs the least work. And I'm really good with story, not so good with character. And I do believe that a first person narration would open up a lot of ways. It would allow me to go a lot deeper and to make that character more relatable because he does not nice things, but I know why he does them. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
I think that's a very good observation that the first person narration will bring out the character. And even if you decided to scrap first person narration, writing even if you wrote a short story from a perspective of one of the characters, you'll work out a lot of things because not only will they have their own thoughts, but the way they think about other characters will be different to how you think about them. And it will bring out those unconscious ideas that you've got.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a lot of work, but I mean, it's all for the sake of the art. If it gets better, then it's fine. And I decided to not start at the beginning, but where I am right now with revising and just take a chunk out of that, right out of the middle and turn it into first person and see how it works. And if it works, then yes, I have to go back and do the whole thing, but it's going to be worth it. So,
I know there was a task in this week called Resume and Recall where you think about projects that you've left behind. Was that one of them?
Joe, that is such a that task, it was synchronicity all over. So in the program, so we're doing a lot of coaching each other's, right? And so we're not supposed to role play, we're supposed to come up with real problems.
Right.
And which is sometimes it's really
Yes.
but so I said, okay, I have this project. I started it in 2009 and it's just grown. It's 7 novels now, 4 of them already written, and it's this and that and blah blah blah. And it feels like there's something holding me back regarding bringing it to market, like really opening it up, and showing it to the world. And through my beloved coach and training, um, I realized in 2010, I actually um, I did what Julia Cameron actually advises you against, like the contain the magic. So I only had a seed, I only had one image, and I shared that image with 2 literary agents. And they were like, oh my God, yes, we want that. And I think I told the story before when we were doing The Artist Way. And they asked me to write 30 or 40 pages as soon as possible so that they can go shop it to publishers. And so I poured like really blood, sweat, tears, everything in there and sent it to them. And I didn't receive an answer. And like 6 weeks later or something like that, they were like, yeah, now we read it, we evaluated it, and we decided that it's not our cup of tea. So what I did was exactly what Julia Cameron said, and what I said to the coach, to the person who was coaching me, I said, you know what? I had not even a newborn, I had an embryo, and they judged it in the sense of, no, it's not going to be Miss Germany. And when I realized that, it opened up like a completely new like I realized why it is so hard to publish anything from that project. Doesn't make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's a tough thing to go through because, I mean, it is a ruthless industry where, that they were excited in the first instance. So that fills you with a lot of hope. And
Yeah.
then you do your best to put that into the pages they ask for. Then you send it back. And, you know, their response could be for a whole number of reasons. But the only thing that matters to you is that they've said no when you had a lot of hope. I mean, you might have handled it differently if they hadn't have asked, if you just sent it to them without them being excited before. But it's a difficult thing to go through. But you've sometimes, it's hard for me to say anything because I know that when I mean, I think no one publishes a book and then like gets instant yeses all around. It doesn't happen. Everyone has to shop around, everyone has to try again. And I feel like what's missing sometimes from my perspective of that situation is that they said no to the 50 pages, but they said yes to the image. So, you've got something. And it doesn't mean to say the 50 pages aren't, the 30, 40 pages weren't good, because I'm sure they were good, but they weren't their cup of tea.
Mm.
But that doesn't mean to say that they won't be someone else's cup of tea. But the image was their cup of tea. So you know what? If they saw a book on the shelf, they might have bought that book, even if, and they might have read it and enjoyed it. But the thing is, when they're looking for books to publish, they've only got one thing on their mind. They're not looking to enjoy themselves necessarily.
It's like the thing is, nothing from those 30, 40 pages is the same anymore. I mean, I've written, as I said, I've written, I don't know, it's probably close to 1,500 pages, the whole project right now, right? And the only thing that is stayed is the original image. Everything else has changed. The characters changed. The character names has changed. The character's essence of being changed. Everything changed, and their complaint was actually, this is too unconventional. It's too dark. Fantasy readers are like in general are more they want they know what they want and they want it more lighthearted. And I'm like, sorry, I can't do lighthearted. So it is actually not a bad criticism. That is, and the point is, my point is actually, I didn't allow myself to look back and to feel all the bad things that put in motion. And because I was like, no, I'm not gonna look there, this is done, I actually didn't have a chance to heal it. And so through the coach and his questions, I actually realized, oh, there's a pain point. Interesting. And if I like really drill my finger in, then it hurts even more. And it helped a lot. And I understood, and now I can actually say what I just told you. Everything has changed, but that one image. From that one image, 1,500 pages flow. You know what I
Yeah.
mean. Anyway, this is, by the way, this is my morning mood. I talk and talk and talk. It's like it's the time of day where I have the most energy, and I
Wow.
drive people crazy with it.
That's why you can do morning pages in the morning.
Exactly. How about you? Did you have something where you had to go for rescue and recall?
I did the exercise and I wrote the answers down, but I feel like with the project that I almost don't want to rescue it. But I went through that process when I'd reflected on it before, but I wouldn't have forced myself to answer the questions because I knew that it's something that I wrote a project that helped me a lot to grow as a writer. But I know that if I did want to rescue it, it would be rewriting it. But I don't. It's not the idea that I want to write right now, and
Hmm.
it's not my best idea. I mean, it was a superhero novel I wrote um 4 years ago now, which
Oh,
seems like
wow.
an awful long time when I look at that. But I wrote it when I was doing my exam, so it worked very much as a distraction, as an escape when I was doing my exams. And it also helped me to. It was the first thing I wrote in a novel format. I wasn't my best writer then,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
some of the ideas are a little bit cliche. I created some fantastic characters and story ideas and scenes that I'm really proud of, and I still think I love that. But there's things in there that I just think this is. I can tell I was younger when I wrote this, and things have changed. So, for example, people I knew were very directly referencing, very directly characters. In fact, myself, my sister, one of my friends, and my cousin were like not the main characters, but they had our names, and it was yeah, it was written when I was younger. And
Hmm.
so I know that I don't want to necessarily recall that, rescue it, and
Yeah.
continue with it. But I look back and I reflected on, okay, what's helped me from that, and would I use it in future? Yes, I'd use some of the characters I created, and if I ever had the chance to write anything superhero, I definitely would.
Hmm.
But I know that I know what it's taught me. I know what I've learned from it, but I'm happy to leave that in the past.
What a valuable conclusion. Like,
Yeah,
yeah. And not condemning the piece of art. But just
yeah,
saying, this is not me right now or anymore. That's really brilliant. I was just thinking of fan fiction, and then, well, it's not really fan fiction because you use the characters from your life. And then I had the idea of, well, it's fan fiction for your own life.
it is. And a lot of ideas I have are because I often find that this is going to be funny, but when I'm walking and listening to music, I just have fan fiction of my life, or it's I always have myself in the world looking out. So if I'm writing a novel that is nothing to do with my life, so I'm writing a historical fiction novel right now,
Hmm.
that's actually it takes longer for me to write because I can't put myself in that position.
Hmm.
Whereas I'm writing a short story at the moment for one of my assignments, and that character is not me. Those experiences aren't me, but I'm drawing on things that are similar. So I'm putting myself in that position and I'm looking around the rooms. I'm looking
Hmm.
at the feelings. I'm looking at, okay, the actions from a perspective that kind of is mine. And I know that I write a lot faster that way. And it's a lot easier to do than
Hmm.
when I'm not. So I think the fan fiction of my life idea. So I've got like a bird
Yay!
over there
It's
singing
beautiful.
along. I never normally notice it, But when I'm on calls with people, there was a, what was that? Oh, it's just a bird. But yeah, it is fan fiction of my life. And in that way, I know that nothing good's going to come out of it, because there was someone in that I think it was about how he brings someone into a project at the wrong time and it doesn't help. I mean, I brought someone into that project that was one of the characters in there, which is one of the reasons I don't like reading back at it. But they
Mm-hmm.
also helped me edit it, and because I was stubborn and I didn't want to edit, I let them do it. And when they wanted to change things, I was like, no, 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 don't change that. And they're like, yes, but that's the silly cliche bit. And I'm like, yes, but that's the bit I like. And it just caused unnecessary tension.
Yeah.
But what I learned from that is that, you know, it's fine for them to read it, but I asked them to edit it for me, and that just wasn't, it didn't work. Nothing about that worked. But I can look back at that and the things I've learned about writing, that now I'm doing a creative writing course at university, and the lecturers only hint at these suggestions. They only give you, it only touches the surface, but these experiences have taught me a lot more in terms of writing and how to do it. And I look at other people in my class, and they don't understand these things yet, but you
Mm-hmm.
won't unless you do it. And so it's something that I've really learned from.
It's like you're so right, dead on the money, I think is how you
Yeah,
say
I
it.
think that's right. Yeah.
Like when you say you don't learn it unless you do it. Like a client of mine, she's like she heard from one of her music idols regarding songwriting, just get the first 100 songs out of your system because they're gonna
Yeah,
be bad. And so she's working on those 100, and now I love this because it's like I don't care if they're good or bad. I just have to come to 100.
yeah,
And the same is true for writing. I wouldn't go so far that you have to write 100 novels
no,
before there's a good one, but I do believe, I mean, God, I wish I hadn't published my first novel. Jesus. So, so I do believe that like you should get at least one novel out of you before you consider publishing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I know it was a good benchmark point for me, because when
Hmm.
I showed the project, which I'm still working on because it's taken me for, I started it then in, yeah, I started it in 2019, and I've been working on it since. So that's 3 years now. But
Hmm.
obviously, I haven't been spending 3 years working on it every day. It's been a couple of months split up from that period of time. But I know when I first started working on that second project and I showed it to people who had read the first, they thought, "Wow, this is so much better. You're writing so much better." And I thought, "Okay, then," and that gave me the energy to continue.
Hmm.
Whereas if I'd just stayed with that one project, I was getting in the stage where I wanted to publish it, just get it out, you know,
And
let
you're
people
frozen
read it,
already.
but I didn't want to go for it and
If
edit
you
it and
can
keep
still
changing
hear me,
things.
please
And so that was a massive
switch on
learning
and
curve
off your
for me.
camera.
But
It
I'm
helps
happy with that.
sometimes. There you are.
Yeah, there I am. I'm back.
Yeah, so it's telling me it's my internet, but okay. Am I,
Yeah, yeah, you're back. You're here.
okay, good, good. Where do we pick up?
I just rounded off that by saying that I'm happy with the situation, and I
Mhm,
knew that the positive feedback from the second compared to the first knew that I was constantly improving. And I
mhm.
have that now where I know I'm constantly improving. So now I'm not afraid to go back and rewrite things.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I have a couple of quotes that I would like to share. And I'm just looking at what we talked about and what we already talked about. I really love, there's an essay on day jobs. And I really love when she says, as artists, we need life, or our art is lifeless. It's like, yes. And then she continues, although we might like to think of ourselves as more rarefied, artists are people, and people do need people, and things, and hobbies, and yes, fun. And I was just like, that, I mean, those are the those are the things I love Julia Cameron for, because she says, yes, you are an artist and there's a ton of things that you need, but you are always, you're also human, you're a person, and you need people things.
Yeah.
So I kind of like got to the point, okay, how can I incorporate that? Like where, and then of course the task is commune with your community. And I figured out a couple of things that I am trying. I don't know how it is with you. For me, like doing something for a community is, there's always the risk of overgiving. Like,
Yeah. And I think that applies to the boundaries very much because but again, I don't say I fear that, because I know I have good boundaries when it comes to that. When I'm doing something for the community, if I'm doing something voluntary, I know I can control I know that I haven't always been able to do that. I know that I love investing myself into projects and doing loads and loads and loads. But now, because I do so many things, I understand that I can't do that. So I know when I give, I'm not over giving. But
mm,
when I set aside the time to, say, being a meeting to help with a community project like the local magazine, which I help, if I know that I can give my all in that meeting, and I can make a list of things I want to do to catch up on for after that meeting. But apart from that, I draw the line,
mm,
and I feel like, yeah, we need to be less scared of doing that, because if everyone says they're going to do something, then no one has to overgive because there's enough people around.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a real cool project. Seth Godin. Do you know Seth Godin?
I'm not sure.
He's a marketer and author. He's written, I don't know how many books. He's the only person on whose email list I am. He writes a daily newsletter, and I'm on his list for 9 years now. He's the I mean, anybody else, I at one point or the other I dropped off, but with Seth Godin, I always stayed on. And he has a project. It's called the Carbon Almanac. It's a completely community driven thing, and I just got my toe in, and now I'm trying to figure out how much involvement do I want. And it's interesting. I will keep you updated.
Yeah, please do. I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything else? Like, I mean, were there any other issues this week that felt significant to you in your self-discovery?
I don't think there was any issues. I feel like after our conversation last week, I've had more of a grip. And
Mhm.
the last couple of days, I've had different members of the family here. So I've just been spending time with them, but I have been doing other stuff as well. And yesterday, I got really exciting news regarding my job. And I feel like that links to the day job essay quite nicely. That I knew that after the end of March, I don't have any classes at university,
Mhm.
and then after I've got a couple of months where I've got some assignments due. Then I've got a long summer holiday until October. So I thought, okay, what do I do? I know my job's going to finish soon, so I've got this time free. I want to just be creative and float around, and hopefully I can write some stuff. But I love my job, and yesterday, I was offered to continue working over the summer and work much more than I do now, because I don't have classes,
Mhm.
to just really be promoted into doing a lot more.
Wow.
And so I'm definitely going to do it. And I jumped at the opportunity. And although I had the perspective that it would be better just to be creative and have all of that free time, I know I'll probably work better if I do have the people and have the things to hold me together in
Mhm.
the middle, and have that sense of routine that was missing in previous years when we've had the pandemic, where I wasn't going to school. And so I know that when university's not on and I'm not going to that, it's going to be difficult. So I know with this, it's going to hold me together, give me
Mhm.
enjoyment, and mean that I still have a job and can continue doing that and doing good things. So really happy and excited about that.
Yeah, congratulations. That is really awesome. I love how you just phrased it, that this is gonna hold me together.
Yeah,
It's like this is so true. I mean, I'm people always think like artists, we are unreliable and we sleep all day and work all night and drink and drug and blah blah blah. But the artists that I met, they all are like structure.
yeah,
And if there's a lack of structure, they actually notice that and say, "Oh, I need more structure." So structure is really like what holds us together. So yeah, that really
yeah,
does fit in nicely with the day job essay because yeah, yeah.
100%.
Do you have a quote you want to share to
Oh,
wrap
I
this
write
up?
one down. Let's have a look. I'm not. Oh, okay. I wrote a Rilke quote down. Always the wish that you may find patience enough in yourself to endure and simplicity enough to believe that you may acquire more and more confidence in that which is difficult and in your solitude, among others.
And that's the Rainer Maria Rilke. And I was so sure that you would pick that.
Yeah, you know me well.
Yeah, and I mean, and it is an amazing quote, and it's like it encompasses everything, and I love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Joe, thank you very, very much. Let's have a sneak peek. Discovering a sense of momentum is week 7. I think that sounds like fun. I love
yeah.
momentum.
I'm looking forward to it. Can't
Me
wait to
too.
see you next week.
See you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.